The Supreme Court decision came down on the 1st. And I got to tell you, this is not the best we can do. It's with no pride I say this. We are at a breaking point, and sadly, some things must be said. So with all humility, I beg you as listeners to post this particular podcast all over social media. I beg you to send links to everyone you know, not because we're interested in profit or promotion, fame or fortune. We are absolutely concerned for the country. No matter your political views, the Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity will affect everyone, yourself included, negatively at some point. It will affect the country negatively. It is the scab on this republic peeled off way too early, and for all the wrong reasons. We, the people, are not meant to be ruled. We, the people, are the rulers. That's a basic fact I would think everyone of every political stripe could agree upon. There are times where, if you know your history, you know that you have the opportunity not to make the same mistakes twice. We as a country are at that moment. I want to bring us to common ground. So if you're MAGA or super conservative or whatever, illegal aliens are not taking your job because you're not picking crops. You are smarter than that. Do not believe the bullshit. If anything is taking your job, it's AI or AI augmented robotics. And that's going to happen a lot quicker than you think. I will not try to convince you of anything. I only ask you to think of what you see as victories from the losing side's point of view, because sooner rather than later, you will find yourself there. And how refined will the workarounds be by then? Perhaps not in your favor. So the common ground is this. Do we want a dictatorship or a king? I think, as Americans, we can all agree we do not. Welcome back to Elsie's Little Pickles. It's another pickle pod with me and him. That's right, it's us, the two of us. And I know that was a heavy intro and not one I'm happy that I had to do, but we'll get into the Supreme Court decision and maybe several of the decisions later on. However, I do think that it's important that people actually understand that Supreme Court decision has altered this country potentially forever. So please, if you're a listener, I've never asked this before, I'll probably never ask it again. Please share this episode. Please talk with those around you if you learned anything from this episode. If you agree with anything from this episode, please keep in mind what's at stake. And with that, we're going to try to brighten things up a little bit because that was very heavy, especially for Elsie's Little Pickles. But it was a devastating decision in my point of view. So hopefully you can perk me up with some news.
Well, first I would like to reiterate, I think it was Benjamin Franklin's quote about democracy.
Mm-hmm. We've given you we've given you a republic, and now it's up to you to decide whether you can keep it.
Correct.
Yeah, and
I think that is truer now than ever.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to that. But let's try to find a little something interesting. I heard something about the Lions. You were talking about something.
Oh yeah, I was going to keep that for last for a little pick me up.
I don't want to.
I'll bring it up now because I love football. The Detroit Lions offensive line has been ranked number 1 in the NFL.
Woohoo! I love it.
I know that their defensive line was very good this past year, surprised many, and they've upgraded it. Their secondary is going to be absolutely terrifying on the field for any passing games. So I think
You think it's going to be
with
Super
all-
Bowl? You think we're going
I'm
to?
sorry?
You think we're going to the Super Bowl?
I think we were a couple of minutes away from going to the Super Bowl last year. This team is even better this year.
All right, I'm looking forward to it, and I don't even like football. I don't.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you were dropped on your head as a kid.
I was.
Or what?
No,
Oh, yeah, that's
I
right.
was. I was dropped on my head many times. Sometimes
But
on
football
purpose.
is such a beautiful game.
Yeah, I will. I will
It's a
take
game
your.
of chess.
I will take your word for it. Really, the reason why I don't follow sports is because I become obsessive compulsive, and then I only want to watch it, and then I get too wrapped up in the fucking team and in the competition, and next thing you know, I'm fucking going crazy and screaming at the TV and making fucking weird noises.
That's what's beautiful. It's the drama.
Yeah, well,
The human drama.
I'm a little bit more no drama Obama than I am getting into screaming at my television because I somehow or another all of a sudden know how to make a play better than the professionals. So
It's entertaining to watch, probably me watch sports that I love, because there are times I have to be quiet
yeah, that's
because the other
when it
half is
scares me.
sleeping. And so I'll just sit there doing the deaf mute, screaming at the screen, all while being quiet. And
Yeah.
if I shake the RV a little too much, I blame the dog.
Well, that dog can shake an RV. Let's tell the people the truth. All right, what else you got?
And in other news, voters kick all the Republican women out of the South Carolina Senate. The only 3 Republican women in the South Carolina Senate took on their party and stopped a total abortion ban from passing in their state this past year. In return, they lost their jobs.
Well, I think that is very representative of what it means to be a Republican these days, which is if you vote your conscience and you don't toe the party line, and the party line is being held by Donald Trump and the Supreme Court, if you don't do what they want, instead of being able to represent what you think is the right thing in your district, they will vote you out. Now, the thing of it is that was a Republican primary. So what they've done now is they've removed the incumbents and they've opened up a door for the Democrats to win. And with abortion, I think that is such a contentious topic, at least on state levels. I think that it's very possible you could see those 3 seats turn. Which, that's good, but the bad side about that is you can't be a Republican who thinks for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, and sure, you could make that argument with Democrats too, but I mean, you don't see very many Democrats getting primaried because they were trying to stop an abortion bill or a ban. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's such a weird fucking time. It's just such a weird fucking time. Every time you turn around. So, like, as an example, look at Kinzinger and Cheney. All right. Trump basically called for military tribunal for Cheney that he wants televised. Okay.
Yes.
And what was her big sin? She represented Republicans on that panel. Same with Kinzinger. They were willing to be on that panel because they experienced, they were there, and they went, this is a step too far. Let's get to the bottom of this. We need Republican representation, and they both got ousted. So really...
Well, Kinzinger decided to retire because of the threat to his family he was receiving.
Again, I don't doubt that. I thought he got prime. Well, no, you're right. He did, didn't he? He did retire. But Cheney...
His children were receiving death threats.
Cheney was clearly ousted. That, you know what I mean? So even when you're doing what could potentially be in the party's best interest, which is being a Republican representative on a committee or an investigative circumstance, is if Trump doesn't like it, guess what? He gets back in office, military tribunal, televised. We're going to show you. Well, that gets to the Supreme Court, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm not going to push that one. I'm just
Mark
so fucking.
Ruffalo's.
I'm sorry. I'm just so chapped about that fucking thing. I really am. I'm fucking pissed. Like, I haven't been this angry about any Supreme Court, even Roe v. Wade. Okay, I was like, man, that is devastating, and I totally disagree with that decision. But that doesn't change the dynamic of the country in the same way that this last decision did. All right, sorry, go on. Mark Ruffalo, fucking Hulk.
Yeah, he popped out a tweet that has gone viral in response to Tara P. Henson's live at the BET Awards, her rant against Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
He retweeted her rant and added to it, Project 2025 is not a game. It is white Christian nationalism. It is a Sharia law of the Christian crazy people who aren't Christian at all, but want to control every aspect of your life through their narrow and exclusionary interpretation of Christ's inclusive and kindly teachings. Do not be fooled by Project 2025's extremist and perverse ideology. Trump is bringing it to all of our lives: abortion, LGBTQIA plus rights, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of education, and equality between the races and genders. Gone. Forced birth and forced religion, Trump's American Taliban.
And he's absolutely right.
Yes.
You know, I think he goes overboard sometimes. You know, like he's a little bit much at times. But he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right.
And I don't on the nail's head.
Yeah, I don't fault him for going overboard. He's passionate about this stuff. You know, as am I, as are you. The issue that we run into is that there's very little time and there's so much at stake. And I've been, you know, getting hit up by friends and family members and people online saying, "Oh, don't you think that Biden needs to drop out? And don't you think that it would be great?" Like our friend Kirk Nolan, he and I were talking about this on Sunday, and he's of the opinion that Michelle Obama will step up, that she's the reluctant hero that you hear about in all the, you know, all the great movies and stories. Somebody who doesn't want the job but sees that there's no one better than herself in order to fulfill that position. And I think that would be interesting. I think that would be great, but she's not going to do it. And the perfect ticket would be Michelle Obama and Gretchen Whitmer. That would be an amazing ticket, but it's not going to happen. There's just too many things in the way of that happening. First and foremost is Joe Biden. Now, look, the Democrats have always been bedwetters when it comes to any issue. You know, that's why Al Franken's not a senator anymore, because, oh my God, you know, he did a joke. Right? But in the meantime, you've got all these Republicans. You got Matt Gaetz, who's under investigation for trafficking a minor, for fuck's sake. And he is not dropping out, and he's not even being asked to drop out by the Republican Party. And even if there are Republicans in the party or leaders or whatever that have asked him to step aside because of these things, he's got enough backing from MAGA and enough backing from the Freedom Caucus. He's not doing shit. You know, it's just there's so much. You know, like I would love for this podcast to be nothing more than me and you telling silly stories and laughing all the time. But there is so much happening in the world of politics, especially politics. I mean, there are plenty of other stories we could talk about. Apparently, there's been like 6 earthquakes in California in recent weeks. And there's concern that, you know, the big one's going to happen and the San Andreas Fault is going to fucking lose its shit. And then we're sitting with, what, you know, California in the fucking Pacific Ocean. You know, I mean, so there are other things to talk about. But,
well, I'm sure Trump will show up with some paper towel.
Yeah, he'll just be throwing, you know, we can just dry this up. Here you go. Here's some bounty. But he wouldn't even bring bounty. He'd like negotiate some deal where it was Trump paper towels. Won't pick up shit.
Maybe they should have raked up their force.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So like I said, I get where Ruffalo's coming from, and I'm thankful that somebody who has the platform that he does is stepping up and not afraid to talk. I agree with him 100% on this one. Project 2025 is a danger, and we're seeing all of the Republican, specifically the far right Republican agenda, in a position that they're just unloading it. And we need to be able to stop that if we want to recognize this country at all. It is, they've got the Supreme Court. That's what they've been waiting for. This playbook, they've been waiting for a guy like Trump who is too lazy to actually understand and think of his own policy and try to move the country forward. That's why they got Project 2025. They weren't ready for him. I don't think that they thought that he was going to win in 2016. But when he did, they went, oh, okay, that's opened a door. And then by the time he put that Amy Coney Barrett on the fucking Supreme Court 3 weeks before the fucking election, that gave them the opportunity to go, it doesn't matter if it's Trump or anyone else. The next conservative, we need to have a playbook for. And we need to push this agenda forward. That's Project 2025. So Trump set it up with this. Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump set up the Supreme Court in an effort for them to be able to pull shit like Project 2025, putting fucking 10 commandments in every classroom, ending abortion. You know what I mean? And creating a circumstance where they think it's going to be in their best interest to have presidential immunity as stated by the Supreme Court in their decision.
Seems to me a lot of this, I hear it all the time. Politics and everything that's going on, it's hard. It's so hard to put up with. It's hard. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Well, you know what? Finding a needle in a haystack is stupid easy. I'm sorry. It is. You know how you find a needle in a haystack?
Fucking magnet.
You bring a fucking magnet.
Yeah.
Simple.
And that's what we needed.
Anyway.
That's what we needed Biden to be. He needed to be the magnet at that magnet. He needed to be the magnet at the debate. And he did fall hard. And we've already had the Master Debaters Part 1 and 2 show. So I'm not gonna go back to that. What I will say is that the fallout since then has been impressive. And I don't necessarily think that Biden or his team are handling it well. I think that the Supreme Court decision, I think that they were hoping that was going to happen on Friday morning so that was what people were talking about, not the debate performance. But instead, Biden got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, getting raked over the coals for his performance, setting that in the minds of every American, and putting doubt on whether or not he'll make it through the rest of his term, much less any of the next term. So you got everyone with their hair on fire on both sides, right? However, I don't know where this goes. I don't think Biden's stepping aside. And if he does step aside, all these fucking little wet dream ideas of it's going to be Kamala, or it's going to be Michelle Obama, or it's going to be Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom, that's not going to happen. It's just not. No. If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be Kamala. And I don't think that she necessarily could pull it off on her own.
No, she just is not appealing to people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kamala. And she apparently is pissed about this.
Well, she's already playing the race card, saying it would look really, really bad if they overlooked me and put a white person in. So she's already playing a race card, which that turned me off on her 100% right there.
Immediate.
So if that's the choice, Biden or Kamala, just off of that fucking statement, you lost me. So for me, I'm riding with Biden. I am, I'm there. I don't care if he is sitting in his own shit and drooling on himself. I'm voting for Biden. And the reason is Trump is just not acceptable at this point. And it's time for the Republicans to admit, just like it's time for the Democrats to admit, that these two candidates are both flawed. They're both horrible. You have not given us any good choices here. And the sad part is there's no third party person that's not either got brain worms or is not viable.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, RFK is as close to a viable candidate, sitting right around 24%, but he's fucking nuts too. So I'm at my wit's end with this. And
I'm ready to throw a ketchup bottle at the wall.
You know what? I wouldn't throw the bottle because I'd have to fix the dent it made, but I might throw a couple ketchup packets from McDonald's at the wall.
Or my Diet Coke at the wall.
This is insanity. All right. Any other news stories?
That is pretty much it.
That's the news.
Yeah, Donald Trump is behind by a point in the Newsweek poll. 1 point is not much.
No, it's within the margin of error, so that you can't really take that as worth. And it's Newsweek. Newsweek polls aren't, you know what I mean? They're not the greatest.
Just so that there's a better news, I'll bring this up again. Football. UFL star kicker Jake Bates signed to the Detroit Lions, and explained in the story why he signed with the Lions. Basically, he was already here playing for the Michigan Panthers, which is a small-time league. The reason why the Lions were interested is because he kicked a 64-yard field goal.
Holy shit.
Point. It would have done it at 68 yards, but it's the second longest in pro football history.
Wow.
Second longest.
Wow. All right, now I'm gonna shit the bed with more of this Supreme Court stuff. All right.
You shit that bed.
I'm gonna shit that bed. All right. So, all right. Granted, this is coming from the Huffington Post. The story. So a little bit of a grain of salt. However, they're referring to statements made by an authoritarianism expert. And the headline is Authoritarian Expert Gives Trump Immunity Ruling an Alarming Label.
Mm-hmm.
Authoritarian expert Ruth Ben-Ghiat suggested the Supreme Court's decision in Donald Trump's favor to grant presidential total immunity for officials or for official acts as effectively the autocrat's fantasy. Authoritarianism is, at its root, is about taking rights away from the many. That's Dobbs, and there's also voting rights that come into play, and allowing the few, the cronies, the oligarchs, the leader, most of all, to have no checks or fewer regulations on their lawlessness, she said on MSNBC's Dateline, is it? What, or Deadline?
I think so.
Deadline White House on Monday. Anyways, here's the quote. So it's about transforming the rule of law into rule by the lawless, she continued. And so removing immunity from the head of state is the autocrat's fantasy. It's why Trump adheres or admires Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and all of those autocrats, because that's his fantasy, because he's so corrupt. She called the 6-3 decision unspeakable. It's a product of these far-right activists who are using the court to, destroy democracy from within, she said. The court's 6 conservative justices agreed in the ruling that Trump is immune from prosecution for official acts undertaken during his presidency. The question of what constitutes an official act will now need to be parsed by the lower courts, effectively ending chances of Trump's federal election conspiracy case going to trial before the November election. All right, so let's unpack that for a minute. I said when you told me about the Ten Commandments story with Landry, mm-hmm. and I mentioned that he could not wait to be sued because it was going to go to the Supreme Court. That's where right now the biggest problem is. This setup of these 6 justices, and mind you, I've actually been a bit impressed with Amy Coney Barrett for the most part. I don't agree with her on a lot of things, but I think you got to give credit where credit's due. So I don't know that I really have a huge problem with her, aside from the fact that she went with them on this. Okay? And I believe she went with them on the Dobbs ruling. So those are the two issues I have with her. But aside from that, I've seen her stand up a few times and kind of mark her own territory and her own turf. So I'm still not 100% against her. However, Alito, Thomas, those two motherfuckers got to go.
Yes.
They are as corrupt gets. And I'm starting to wonder about Roberts as well.
Well, the Chevron decision is very troubling.
Very troubling. They now know, they think they know, I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but essentially what it boils down to is they're fucking people out of the money owed to them.
Yep.
And I think that that's a backroom deal. I think that that's Clarence Thomas's last RV or his last vacation. This Supreme Court is full of corrupt individuals, and specifically Alito and Thomas. Thomas more than any of them. Thomas, if no one else, I mean, I know AOC is supposedly bringing articles of impeachment up. I don't know if that's for all 6 justices that are conservative or if it's just for a few, but it should definitively be for Clarence Thomas and Alito. They got to go. They have got to go. They are too corrupt.
What Biden can do now. I'm not going to giggle, snort, and say he should send SEAL Team 6 after Trump.
No, you can't say that, first off, because that is what Harry Sisson, is that his name?
Yes, I'm glad. This is why I was bringing that up. Expect a visit.
Right. So Harry Sisson, who's like a 21, 22-year-old kid, right? But he's a very big Democratic influencer for the youth, wrote, according to the Supreme Court, Biden could now send in SEAL Team 6 to take all of them out. He could send in the military to take out Trump. He has immunity for official acts now. And President Trump's campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, I think, is this how you pronounce it? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just I don't know how to pronounce that name. It's LaCivita. La Civita, it would be my guess. Tells Harry Sisson to expect a visit after his recent post about using the military to take out Trump. So you can't say that. You can't say that.
But the problem is
stormtroopers are coming, man. Jack boots up your ass. Don't you see?
Well, it would be the incorrect choice because you would just be stooping, to that low.
Well, that's what I've said, is that Biden would never do it. What Biden could do
is sign an executive order of felons cannot run for public office across the board.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
Why not? They can't hold a mayor's office. They cannot hold a governor's office.
I don't know why that doesn't exist already.
Yeah, and that is the correct way to go. Second of all, an executive order preventing a Supreme Court justice from accepting kickbacks.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Well, here's the thing.
How about an executive order expanding the Supreme Court and putting 4 judges?
Yeah,
at least 3.
Again, at this point, I think Biden would be well within his rights to do all of those things.
Yes.
He won't. Because, again, he's old school. He believes that he has a responsibility to do the right thing, not the convenient thing. And those things will never happen.
I feel sometimes like I'm Sean Connery in The Untouchables. They send one of yours to the hospital, you send one of theirs to the morgue.
Oh, thank you for that moment of levity. But I want people to understand that this is the plan, and it's a well-constructed plan. We win enough on state and local levels, so that we can effectively use those politicians to create a stir with whether it's, and it's usually social type issues, but to create a stir. And in doing so, once we have the Supreme Court loaded enough to our side, all of those issues will eventually bubble up, and we have 6 justices, 2 of which, definitely 1, if not more, are in the pocket of the Conservative Party donors, the donor class. So we're going to circumvent Congress. We're going to circumvent the American people, and we're going to take everything to the fucking Supreme Court, which we already know how they're going to rule because we bought that ruling for the last 10, 15, 20 years. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And you're seeing that with the 10 Commandments. You're seeing that with the abortion issue. You're seeing that with the bump stock issue. You're seeing that with the Chevron issue. You're seeing that with the immunity issue. The list is long. And the only thing that they have not achieved yet is getting Project 2025 in place with a willing participant. And guess what? Trump is that willing participant.
Yes.
I don't know how much plainer we can say this. You know what I mean?
The problem is that your average MAGA conservative wants that.
Okay, well, that's less than a third of the country. Or not even a third of the country. It's not even a third of the country. It's a third of the voting electorate. Less than a third. You're talking like 22, 25%. Is the base right now. Even if you give them the benefit of the doubt and you go a full 33, you're still talking the minority. And this is the problem. People do not understand. If you like your religious belief system, whether you're a Catholic, whether you're a Baptist, if you're a Christian, whether you're a fucking Buddhist, whether you're a fucking Muslim, whether you're fucking Jewish, whatever it is that you are, atheists included, guess what? Once they make the decision that, oh, no, this argument about this country not being a Christian nation, we're going to make that law. And the Supreme Court's going to go, well, okay. Where's my new RV? Where's my next vacation? I mean, come on. What the fuck are we doing? Everyone out there who loves their religious freedom should be voting Biden. Everyone out there who loves the idea of living in a democracy, a republic, a democratic republic, should be voting for Biden. Not because he's the best candidate, not because he's even fucking checked in. He's checked out. But what matters is saving the fucking republic. Wake the fuck up, sit up, take notice, and understand. It's better to have a dementia-ridden old man in Biden than it is to take even the slightest risk with Trump. How many times have I tried to give the Republican side benefit of the doubt? How many times have I said that I'm not about picking sides? Every fucking show we've done, I've said this. Well, guess what? That changed because of the fucking Supreme Court decision on immunity. That's changed. My opinion on whether or not, come November, all I want somebody to do is vote, and regardless of who they pick, I'm going to be okay with that. That changed. That's no longer even an option. We're talking about the survival of the fucking republic. And for those of you...
The sad thing is I saw this coming.
Oh, I saw it coming too. But I didn't think that when it came to this particular decision, I did not think, I didn't think that the Supreme Court would even take it up. And that was naive on my part. And then I thought, okay, well, if they do take it up, the only thing that they're going to do is agree with the lower court's decision, because that was a solid decision. I mean, The lower court, even one of the judges, well, so are you telling me that if a president wanted to assassinate a political opponent, they could? And the lawyer said, well, technically, blah, 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 yes. This is what our Supreme Court just gave Trump. Wake
you could say
the
that
fuck up.
nowadays we do have a banana republic.
It just became yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Mark that on your fucking calendars. July 1st.
What happens if that political head cheese decides to take out his aggression the people?
Well, that's my point. People don't understand. This is not about Republican or Democrat. It has nothing to do with that. It does not even have anything to do with Trump and Biden, really. Though we could see the negative effects of this come quicker with Trump. But at some point, unless Trump goes full dictator, full fucking king of the United States, which I would not be surprised if he did, because he wouldn't be able to be held accountable. He's got full immunity. If he wants to say, I'm king of America, well, guess what? Now he's king of America.
Yeah.
Because he can't be prosecuted. I mean, if you don't think that he's going to wipe his ass with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, given this decision, you are out of your fucking head.
Nullify the election in 2028.
He could nullify elections permanently.
Yeah.
And he would be able to get away with it because he could not be convicted under this set of rules, because that would be an official presidential in office.
You could do it as an executive order.
Yeah. This is the way that you get rid of Congress. This is the way you get rid of the Senate. This is the way you become a dictator, a king, an oligarch.
It's almost as if people weren't paying attention to what happened in Rome.
They weren't. That gets back to what I said at the beginning of the show. If you know your history, you know how to avoid making the same mistakes twice. And unfortunately, in this country, you know what? History class doesn't matter as much as STEM. History class doesn't matter as much as football. History class and government and civics don't matter as much as any sport. That's what we care about. We care about...
Now my next question is going to be my last question from last week. Where are we moving to?
Again, I'm a ride or die because, I mean, I don't see it much better. I mean, look at what just happened in France, okay? The far right, basically the female version of Trump won, and Macron is out. But why is he out? Because they say he's out of touch. He's an elitist. He hasn't done anything about inflation. Well, that's the same fucking arguments that are being made here. He didn't do enough about immigration. He didn't do enough of... All right, wait a minute. We're going to give up all of that and go this way. That doesn't make sense. And when you look at inflation globally, the United States is looking pretty good comparatively. I mean, I don't know if we've got the lowest inflation in the world, but we're in the, as far as inflation goes, we're in the bottom three as far as like how high our inflation is. We've kind of got it under control. And the only reason we don't have it under control because the inflation that's currently going on is self-inflicted. It's businesses that got greedy during COVID, realizing they could charge more because supply was low. And they adjusted their fucking business plan accordingly. We're going to keep stock low. We're going to keep production low. And we're going to raise prices. And that's what they did. And that's what they're still doing. This has all got to end, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's all got to stop. And the only way it stops is if we, the people, stop it. Now, the argument is pick the lesser of two evils. Well, that's always been the argument, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, forever. Maybe it's time that we don't do that. Maybe it's time we put a little bit of a block so we can make the time to make the right choice. I don't need Biden in office for 4 years. I just need him to win. Only to stop Trump and stop this Project 2025 and stop this fucking Supreme Court from going so far to the right that we won't recognize the world we live in. Even if you are MAGA, you won't recognize, you will find, so let's, what do they call it? Super mega ultra MAGA? Like that's like as good as you can get in MAGA world. I'm super ultra mega. Lava MAGA. Nuclear MAGA. All right? This is going to affect you too. At some point.
They don't realize it.
This is bad for everyone. All we need is enough time to prevent this from happening. And the only way that we get that is by getting either Biden or anyone but Trump in office. I'm for anyone but Trump. That's who I'm actually for. Anyone but Trump. But when you look at the polling, the only one that's even coming close is Biden. It's not third-party candidates. It's not the people that have been floated.
They've both done a great job of keeping those out.
Yeah. And this is what we get. It's sad. It's horrific. And again, I will ask our listeners, please share this podcast with as many people as you can before November. This is not because we want anything out of it other than to hopefully warn people what's going on. There's concerned.
Also the group of people who don't plan on voting because I read one today. They just want to see everything burn. Why?
Well, they won't feel that way if it burns in a direction that they don't feel comfortable. It's one thing when you're watching the fire from a distance, but when it creeps up to your door and starts affecting you, you'll wish you would have voted. You will.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I honestly, I can't take any more of that depression. Why don't you hit me with
my blood pressure pills?
Yeah, I mean, Christ almighty. I mean, I know I sound fired up and I don't want to scare people off, but god damn, we're in a bad position right now. And it's interesting to see that even while Democrats are in control, there are so many levers being pulled by the Republicans. And they are moving that agenda forward in a way that I don't think even the most hardcore supporters of Trump will come to a point where they realize this is not what we wanted. This is not what we were talking about. When you are forced, or your children are forced, to study the Bible, okay, well, if you're a Christian, maybe you don't have a problem with that. But how would you feel if it was the Quran that they were being forced to study? How would you feel if, it doesn't even matter. If you don't get it at this point, fuck you. You deserve what you fucking get. I mean, I'm trying to be as nice about this as possible, but at the end of the day, if you are so fucking ignorant to what is just being unfolded in front of you, you still don't either vote or you vote Trump, you deserve the life he gives you. Tell me something funny. Get me out of this funk, because like I said, I've been spun out since 10 a.m. yesterday. I've been literally just spun out by this. Nothing has really just sent me off like this in a very long time. All right, so
I have got some stories for you that need to be answered.
Okay.
Are you ready to dispense some wisdom to these online people?
I think I might be able to help with the wisdom.
This first one says, my mother died, and my 15-year-old son gave a tribute at her funeral. His arms and legs were shaking while he was speaking. How do I raise a better son who doesn't panic in these situations and worsens events due to his uncomfortableness?
You don't. You're an asshole. You're a fucking asshole. He's 15. You don't get, first off, public speaking is like the number one fear in the world. Okay? You're not, I mean, the only way that you get comfortable doing public speaking, and I've done it for over 30 years. And even at that, at our mom's funeral, I was not comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different situation when you're doing, if you're performing. It's a different situation if you're, in a play as a kid, in a school play. It's a different situation. Like, there's so many different situations like that. But the hardest one, I'll give you two. I was best man at your wedding, and I had to give the toast. And if anyone, especially at that point in my life, with all the experience I had being in front of large crowds and speaking, should have been comfortable doing it, it should have been me. So both as a best man at your wedding and at giving the eulogy at our mother's funeral, I was not comfortable. Because it's different when it's family and friends. It's a lot harder. That father should go fuck himself. He's an asshole.
And now another one. If homosexuality isn't contagious, then why do I always have or homosexual thoughts whenever my friend takes off his shirt?
Because you're gay. You want to suck your friend's dick. I think that's pretty obvious. You know what I mean? But see, here's the thing. All right, this is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I actually read. I wonder if I can even find it right now. But I read this story. Here it is. People are very, very uncomfortable talking about anything that could be considered homosexual. So this story is anal sex is stigmatized due to homophobia, experts say. You don't say. You think? Okay. It's time we start talking about it. Talking about sex is sometimes uncomfortable, unsettling, and for some, unsexy. Talking about anal sex, though, is a whole other level. Many wouldn't dare bring it up in the first place. Dr. Evan Goldstein, founder and CEO of Bespoke Surgical. Bespoke? Okay, well, a health practice specializing in gay men's sexual health and wellness. I guess I didn't read all the article. Is trying to change the conversation around anal sex from something strange to something educational and empowering. His book, Butt, B-U-T-T, Seriously, out May 28th, aims to do just that. We can't just meet people where they are sexually, he ponders. No judgment, no stigma, create safe spaces and support so people can get to wherever they want to be. Yet, anal sex is particularly taboo. Experts say that because many think of it as morally wrong due to the lingering effects of homophobia, the only way to combat, concerns about the sexual practice is to learn about it. Everyone's got a butt, and it's full of rich nerve endings, which can make anal sex pleasurable, says Dr. Carlton Thomas, a gay gastroenterologist who posts sexual health tips on social media. Anal sex is for all genders and sexualities. There is no masculinity, femininity, sexuality, or gender role assigned to it. Where does the stigma from anal sex come from? Anal sex has long been demonized, dating back to the religious texts, but cultures, including the Romans and Greeks, frequently had anal sex anyway, and it has been represented in art going back thousands of years, including from Asia, South America, and Europe, says Deborah Lynn Herbenek, professor at the Indiana University School of Public Health and author of Yes, Your Kid, What Parents Need to Know About Today's Teens and Sex. The moral stigma has persisted anyway, as anal sex has long been associated with gay men. Religious discourses that demonize homosexuality and non-reproductive forms of sexual intimacy, in particular, also shape how the public views anal sex, says Cornell Gray. assistant professor of gender, sexuality, and women's studies at Western University in Canada. When we talk about the stigmatization of anal sex, we also have to confront homophobic stigma as well. This has even played out in the doctor's office. Most people don't feel comfortable going to the doctor to talk about these issues, adds Goldstein. And most doctors don't feel comfortable as well talking about it. Well, I mean, it is a little bit, that's a tough topic to bring up. So, how's things going? I mean, is this just a checkup? Well, actually, I had some questions. I've been getting fucked in the ass a lot, and I'm worried about any repercussions. Yeah, it's a difficult topic, but why? Why is it a difficult topic?
They haven't been around me at all.
No, because you would fuck them in the ass in a heartbeat.
I bring up anal sex all the time with my female friends. Like, literally, all of them are like, he's a bit of a pain in the butt, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink.
But here's the problem. That again, this goes back to the idea of, here's a person who obviously, he may not be gay, he may be bisexual, he may just be curious or whatever. Okay, the movie The 300 did not depict this.
Yeah, they did not cover that.
But they definitively had sex with each other because it was thought that you would be more protective of the person that you just had sex with. And there weren't any women in the 300. And there weren't any Spartans that were, Spartan soldiers that were women. This was a common practice. It was a common practice in Greece. There's so many things that used to be common practices and not even thought of as like, well, that's odd or, lascivious behavior. This is one of them. Okay. Get over yourself, dude. If you can't even get to the point where you can look at another man and go, wow, that's a very handsome man. And there are some people I know that can't even do that. They can't even admit, like, Brad Pitt, no matter what you think of him, is a handsome man. Chris Helmsworth is a handsome man. Jason Momoa is a handsome man. Like, the list goes on. Robert Downey Jr. is a handsome man. You should be able to say that without feeling like, oh, my friends are going to think I'm gay. And you should be able to look at your friend take off his shirt and go, fuck, if I was gay, I would be all over that. Get over yourself. What the fuck is going on in this country where every little sexual thought is horrific? And if you're not making a baby, oh my God, you're just fucking for fun? Yeah, I'm fucking for fun. I enjoy fucking. That's what I want to do. If I had the choice between going to work and fucking, guess what one I'm choosing?
Well, what if your job was fucking?
Even better, but I can't get anyone to pay me to fuck them.
And another news. My cat does not like her food because it is vegetables, but I can't give her meat since I am a vegan. How do I get her to like vegetables? I mean, children are the same way, but they can learn.
Okay, well, first off, cats are carnivores. Secondly, it's never going to happen. And third, stop imposing your fucking dietary restrictions on your fucking animal. Again, this is ridiculous. You don't have to. Yes. You're not eating it. You're not eating it.
Well, if Albert Einstein was so smart, then why did he die?
I don't know. Why did he die? I'm guessing fucking old age.
How can I convince my girlfriend to tape her fingers together and pretend she's a dinosaur?
You don't convince her of it. You wait till she falls asleep, and then you tape her fingers together, and then you tape her toes together too, because then she'll have no choice but to walk like a fucking T-Rex. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Like, this guy honestly wanted to know how he can convince. This is serious. Like, it's not a joke.
No, that's what it said.
Oh my God, we're fucked. We're fucked. When that's a question, like a legit question, we as a country are completely and totally fucked. You enjoy your Supreme Court, enjoy Trump, enjoy Project 2025. We're done. Like at that point, you might as well be going, is it weird that I jack off to pictures of Mitch McConnell?
Yes.
Yes, it is. But if you
my
have to
neighbor's
ask,
bees,
come on.
if my neighbor's bees routinely steal pollen from my flowers and make honey that my neighbor profits from selling, can I sue them for a portion of that profit?
Oh my God. Yeah, go ahead, do that.
What are we doing?
Why don't you just ask them if they'll give you $5 because you're telling it. Oh, God damn. This is where the country is. This is where we are. You're going to sue over bees getting pollen from your fucking flowers. You petty cunt. You fucking petty cunt.
Why does my 2-month-old son react very badly when I feed him Red Bull?
I'm not even going to respond to that. Why? Look, part of the reason why we were able to adopt you was because the nurse at the Lutheran center that you were being originally at was feeding you potato chips at 7 weeks, 8 weeks old. If you don't know that you can't give a 2-year-old,
2-month-old.
Oh, 2-month-old. I'm sorry. Red Bull. The first question I have is, what does Red Bull do? It amps you up. It's full of caffeine. Why would you want a fucking 2-month-old jacked up on Red Bull? Like, what are you thinking there? And this, I'm going to guess, this is somebody that's against abortion. I'm gonna step out on a ledge there and go, this is somebody that went, I would never get an abortion. And that's a woman's voice for this person. I would never get an abortion. Smoking a cigarette. And tell me why my 2-month-old reacts negatively when I put my cigarettes out on its feet. Come on. Am I wrong?
This is the world around us.
Jesus Christ, where the fuck do you find this shit?
It's the world around us.
I want to know where the fuck you're looking to get these stories.
I handwrite these all the time.
Oh, God damn it. Fuck. That's hardcore.
What's that?
That's hardcore, though. Feeding a fucking 2-month-old Red Bull. That's hardcore stupidity on a level that...
And now our last one. 6 months ago, I bought a golden face monkey.
Okay.
I have trained him. I have raised him. And constantly he acts out. Am I the asshole for always whining to spank my monkey?
Okay, so let's assume that that's a legit story. I'm thinking that's one you hand wrote. But let's assume that that's a legit story.
Are you assuming this because I spank my monkey?
Yes, I am. And
bad monkey.
I know that you call yours a golden face. So what they're referring to is a golden face capuchin. All right. And oddly, I have experience with golden face capuchins. I kept one at our house for about a month and a half, 2 months as a friend or as a favor to a friend. And then I was in a position of almost bringing one home that was for sale. And the one thing that I learned was, you can't spank that monkey. They do.
Well, you can.
Well, you
I'm sure
you can try. You can try. But I can tell you for a fact that the first one I had was a full grown, fully matured, had gone through puberty and was not easy to deal with. It like you had to handle her with welding gloves, and even then she could bite you so fucking hard through the welding glove that you were in serious pain. You don't want, and this is coming from somebody I like. If I had followed the path that I was on as a kid, I would have become I would have been involved in one way or another studying apes and primates. I would have gone the Jane Goodall route. I was absolutely fascinated, read every book, Mom drove me to every library within 30 miles of the house to get every book, including the college libraries. I was at 7, 8, 9 years old reading college level texts on anything that had anything to do with primates or the great apes. They are not meant to be pets. End of story. I always wanted one as a pet. I would love to win the lottery so that I could start a primate or great ape sanctuary. Like, honestly, that would be something that would fill me with joy to be able to create a sanctuary for all of the ones.
And then you got me.
Yeah, and that solved all the problems because you were as hairy as an ape and you could climb the fuck out of a tree. And
I threw poop at you.
Occasionally. But the funny thing was what you did with Peanuts, always bouncing them off your dick. I told you were fucking nuts.
Well, you got to get a good bounce that gets high enough in the air so I can catch it in my mouth.
But that's the thing is that if we bring this back around to what we were talking about with the government, Supreme Court, Trump, Congress, so on and so forth, and where the country's going, that's exactly where we are. You got a bunch of leaders who are literally looking at us as if we're dumb apes and that we can't see through this and that we're not going to be able to stop it. And we can stop this. Again, a small favor. Pass this around. And if you don't want to pass it around, have the conversation with your friends. Have the conversation with your family. Explain what's at stake. Because if you don't, you're going to be in the same shit show that we're all in. And while you might like it for a bit, at some point, it's going to become more than you can bear. And with that, that's another Elsie's Little Pickles.
City lights are glowing, shadows start to fall. In the alleys and the corners, you can hear the nightlife call. She's got a smile that's painted, lipstick red as wine. Her eyes are always searching for the next in line. Hookers and blow under neon skies. Hookers and blow snorting from her thigh. Hookers and blow. Looking for a thrill, money in his pocket, he's got time to kill. She whispers in his ear, promises the night. Together they'll get lost in talkie shows and coffees and blow under neon skies. Hookers and blow snorting from her thigh. Hookers and blow. A stranger in a suit, looking for a thrill. Money in his pocket, he's got time to kill. She whispers in his ear, promises the night. Together they'll get lost in talkie shows and cockfights. The island glamour, there's a dark side. Secrets and regrets, who am I kidding? Shut up and ride. She's like a powder donut princess with semen stains. While it's empty, I'm like her, and she crushed from the strain. Talking said she's blown out, leaking love, oh what a sight. Hookers and blow under neon skies. Hookers and blow snorting from. Wait, is that the cops? Hookers and blow, where we're shamelessly. Hookers and blow, out the window, leave the donkey. Leave the donkey. Leave the donkey. lights are fading, dawn begins to break. The echoes of the night are memories we make. Hookers and blow, hope she forgets my name. Hookers and blow, tonight I'll do it again. With a donkey, I'll do it again. With a donkey, with a donkey, with a donkey. Again, again. City lights are fading, dawn begins to break. The echoes of the night are memories we make. Hookers and blow, hope she forgets my name.